You all right?
Yeah, not so bad. Not so bad. Busy week. You know how it goes.
Do I ever? Yes, yes. Ridiculously busy week. Yeah,
Yeah. Yes. Anyway, we've got some really cool things going on.
yeah.
There's Blackpool Horror Society stuff going on. There's a meeting coming up. Because keep it quiet. But
Well,
Blackpool Horror Society is publishing an anthology, so its members are going to all be writing a horror story. But it's not just going to be a straight anthology. It's going to be linked together.
when's the next meeting?
Week on Saturday.
Week on Saturday.
Yes.
Right. I've got to get down there for this one. I've just been so lax and messing around, and yeah.
But it's,
I care about family things.
It's down at Blackpool Library.
Yep.
And it's in the afternoon of a Saturday afternoon at Blackpool Library. And it's great because actually all the winos and all that have left to go into the centre of town at that time. So it's a nice clear way into the library.
Well, not all of them. I mean, there's Blackpool Horror Society.
Yes, well, there is us as well. With tea and cake.
Brilliant. Yeah, I will be there for that.
Cool.
Yes. So looking forward to that. You've got some shows coming up, haven't you?
I have. I got actually on the 4th of May, we're doing a Star Wars celebration called May the 4th Be With You. So that's close. That's the closest one for now. I'll talk about the others at another time. But yeah, on the 4th of May, we've got that coming up. So this should be out by then.
Where's this one? Where's
Ross,
this?
actually, we need to start doing this, don't we? Because we don't get sponsorship. We try, but we don't get sponsorship. I'm going to really highlight this. Russ Brown's House of Secrets in Blackpool is, I have a residency there. I do the magical words poetry stuff there. Yep. And I do a number of shows. I'm doing the Star Wars. I'm doing a Tommy Cooper one this year. There's a celebration of werewolves at Halloween. I'm going to be doing a Doctor Who one in November. And I do a Christmas Carol, all as one-person shows. They're all going on. And then I'm also tying a lot of stuff into the Old Electric at the moment. They've got some really nice productions coming up. They've just recently done a musical version of Sleepy Hollow, which we sent our roving reporter out there, Simon, and he said, actually, it was really good. So, you know, I say that begrudgingly because I don't like musicals. So
I trust his judgment on that as well, because I know that. Also, he calls a spade a spade. If something's crap, in that case, he lets you know that it's crap. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, on his recommendation, I have not watched the latest Ant-Man movie so far. Told me I'll be wasting my time.
To be honest, I have disagreed with him on a couple of things where he's not liked them and I've liked them, but I like his frankness about it. If he doesn't like it, he'll tell you why as well. He won't just say it's crap.
Yeah.
You know? Like the new Candyman, for example. I really enjoyed it. He didn't.
All right.
You know.
Is that one that we're going to be looking at some point in the future?
At some point in the future, we will look at Candyman, but we've got a brand new. I'm not going to give anything away just yet unless it will actually get us more viewers.
Right.
So if you want us to give away what's next at the beginning, you know what to do. Like a load, you know.
Yes.
But
yeah,
you know, or as I heard the other day, because as you know, I'm doing a celebration of werewolves for Halloween.
Right.
Okay. So what do you call a werewolf that has his own YouTube channel?
Go on.
Like and subscribe.
I like that. Yes, I like that a lot. Yeah. Like and subscribe. Yeah.
Like and subscribe. I like it. I think horror fans will like it in that kind of thing. But, you know, I thought it was good. So, but yeah, so we've got some really exciting things. Because we broadcast out of Blackpool. Lots of exciting things now going on in Blackpool. I think what I've been trying to push for many a year, which is getting this undercurrent of art, you know, and just getting some more less mainstream shows out there is starting to happen. So
about time.
I blame the degree for that.
I blame drugs. So
yeah, or lack of them. That's the yes. Right.
What have we been reading this week?
This week we have been reading and we'll be showcasing the absolutely new writing talents. Don't want to give anything away, just want to do the synopsis. We've been reading Platty Joobs. which is a story that was submitted to the Blackpool Horror Society. Look at the way that was foreshadowed, like a professional there. From the Horror Society, she's called Dani, and she's a very talented writer. Every single month she has something new that she has written, and it's astonishing what she has written. And this is one I said to her, I want one of your stories, please. She said, which one? I said, you choose, but you got to edit it before you send it. Well, she wasn't very happy about that. Eventually, many weeks later, probably rushing over to months, she sent us Platty Joobs. So we have been reading Platty Joobs. And the synopsis? Do you want to hear the synopsis?
I would love to hear the synopsis. Yes,
there we
please.
go. So it's the weekend of the Queen's Platinum Jubilee.
Queen, God rest her soul.
God, yeah. God.
Yeah.
Press myself with that one. And this guy is getting drunk. His youngest son of 2 sons is getting married, and he's having a drink. And he says to his son, it's not every day that your boy gets married. And anyway, you'll be dead soon. And then the son says, why? Why am I going to be dead soon? Because he's from Essex. And he says, well, basically, the family was cursed by witches. That most witches are just fucking rubbish, but they come from a family of witchfinder generals. And a witch cursed the family that the second son, the first son, isn't it? It's the younger brother who was getting married. The first son will always be killed by royalty, while the second son will then have 2 sons, and the first son will be killed by royalty whilst the second son has 2 sons. So this is the day of the youngest son's wedding. And he's now saying, you're going to die and you're going to get killed by royalty. And goes on about the whole family history, and everyone's been hanged by the king or queen, not a euphemism. And then they sort of go, well, hang on a second, hanging was banned in the 60s. And he says, yes, but your uncle, what's his name, got pushed in front of a train by a Freddie Mercury impersonator, thus bringing in the whole killed by the queen sort of thing. And so that continues all the way through, and there's some weaving about wonderful sort of backgroundy details until he gets to the point where he says, well, if I'm going to die, fuck it, I'm going to go to the pub. So he goes to the pub and he starts having a few shifters, and he's a bit worried that anything could be the queen, and he sees 2 drag acts fighting over who should be top of the bill, and he thinks, oh no, it's a couple of queens. I'm going to get killed by one of these queens, one of this drag act. And he goes outside and promptly gets killed by the falling sign from the pub, which is called the Queen's Head.
Did you enjoy it?
Is it the one you read?
Yeah, that's the one I read, yeah.
Yeah. Did I enjoy it? Yeah, I bloody loved it.
Yeah. Yeah, she does so many things just perfectly. The tension in there, the characters in there, and the humour in there. And the whole thing, as you were reading it, you knew as soon as the guy was told that he was cursed, there's a death coming up somewhere. And it had got that wonderful Final Destination vibe where every new paragraph you're thinking, is this it? Is this it? And yeah, it was just wonderful edge of the seat stuff. And it's also carried by these realistic, sweary, a little bit thick characters who are just so true to life that you can't help but recognize people you know in them.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And it's the little bits as well that she does when it's the similes that she uses. She uses these really little bizarre throwaway similes that are just so pop culture in comparing people to such and such a thing. She'll be comparing someone and it'll end up being like a fresh butter pie, and it's nothing like that, but you instantly understand what it is she's talking about when she says it. And it's really, really nicely done. She annoys me, Dani, so much because she's so talented at doing this. And yet she, like I say, she was annoyed at me because I made her edit this. It's because, it's just, I'm not going to say effortless to her. That's being a bit disingenuous, because she does work at them, but she loves working at them, and that's the difference of it. So they do kind of fall out of her a bit, and she has this wonderful voice and this wonderful way of just pacing things right.
Yeah.
And it's a natural ability that she actually has. But she still has to work very hard to get it done, because you don't just write 5,000 words for nothing, with no energy expended.
My God, yeah, it's 5,000 words. I hadn't realised that. I'd sort of like read it in just one sitting and yet inhaled it. It was just so much fun all the way through. And
Yeah.
the whole the setup could have been complicated in less sophisticated hands. With something like a person has two children and it's this one that dies and this one that survives. And but yeah, she just sort of like transmitted it effortlessly. And yeah, I sat down and read it, and the pacing was just absolutely perfect. Yeah.
And there's no bloat. Even when it seems like it's going off on a tangent, that tangent does so much work in world building, in character building. It's all there. The theories that I'm working with at the moment of the set the reality, create the uncanny to the new reality. And she does that. That's exactly what, in any good writing does. It starts off in one position, it throws in some oddities, it comes out in another position, and then it throws in some more oddities. So each time it goes through, you have this next layer of the new reality, the next layer of the new reality, all the way through. And it's almost like, I'm going to describe it because I love the way she uses similes. When we read Ramsey Campbell, we were talking about how well he uses metaphors. Yes. I actually think Dani is of an equal level with similes.
Yeah, I would agree.
Her similes are fantastic. So I say that she kind of takes this idea of the reality into the uncanny, into the new reality, but she kind of riffle shuffles them like a magician does, So it's like they don't just sit there in compartments; they riffle into the way that they move into each other, and then pushes them together. So it's constantly moving; it never stops, because the new reality moves into the next uncanny, to the new reality, to the next uncanny, and it just flows so well. And each time it moves to a new reality, there's this what feels like a tangent when you're reading it, but then comes back on itself as more world building in the new reality, more character building in the new reality, before the next uncanny comes along to then upset that particular apple cart and bring you through to the final stretch. It's very, very, very clever writing.
And to some extent, it's almost as though we're getting foreshadowing. It's almost as though bringing something back is almost like the callback that you get with a good gag, which works on that level. But also, it's the blend of horror and humour. So you've got that callback to, oh, bloody hell, I thought we were away from that. And also they mentioned that before. Yeah, as you say, it's just blended beautifully. The whole silly idea of somebody getting pushed under a train by a Freddie Mercury tribute act.
Yes.
And the fact that she doesn't even spell it out. You've got to do the mental calisthenics of thinking, well, what's Freddie Mercury got to do with Roy? Queen. And yes.
And it's a lovely little thing, because it becomes a vicious pun.
Yeah.
So you're starting off with, say, the reality of the whole thing. Then you're going to set this uncanniness of the curse. And then we're going to go to a new reality. And then we're going to set another uncanny. So we go to the new reality, which is, okay, the curse is now real. But how does that continue? So we'll set the new uncanny. We'll have Freddie Mercury push him in front of a train. That is exactly what I'm talking about in terms of this is now straddling reality and non-reality. It's a Queen tribute act, because obviously the real Freddie Mercury wouldn't be stood on that train station like that. So it has the tribute act, but then sits on top of that the pun to go in to say it's Queen, which is as close to royalty as we can get nowadays on a train station in Croydon or wherever it is, And so that is the epitome of the uncanny right there. It's an absurdity that could quite easily be a reality that any of us actually see. And then he pushes him in front of a train, which creates the new reality. The new reality is now anything that could be referred to as royalty could now actually be the killer in that one instant.
Yeah, which meant that we were watching every line from then on and sort of like reading it. And is there a chance that sort of like, is there a double entendre here? Is there a reference to a king, a queen, a prince? Yeah.
Fantastic. It's asking so many questions of the reader But like you say, the one thing that comes back, if she decided to strip the humour out, you could make that a beautiful horror. If you decide to strip the horror out, actually, I don't think you're not stripping the horror out at all, are you? Because the horror is encompassing with the humour. It becomes the punchline. You know, it's a beautiful blend of why I see, and I know you agree with me when we've had these discussions, that horror and comedy are the same mechanic. You know, they work the same way. The joke works the same way, and it's the same mechanic as a magic trick. It all works that same way of the setup, and that's where it all came from. And actually, you start realizing all stories, if you break things down to scenes rather than just descriptions, when you break it down to a scene across the entire narrative, you have multiple scenes of this same mechanic going on all the time, and that becomes your repeat mechanic. Some of us have to work very hard at understanding that. I think it's something that's teachable, that mechanic, but Dani just has it so naturally. She sees that mechanic. It's, you know, in the way that she writes, everything she writes is the same as that. I'm not saying it's samey, because it's not, but it has that same level of understanding of how scenes work within a bigger narrative.
Is there any way people can experience this story?
No. I am going to record them. I have new recording equipment, which is going to make things a lot easier. But I am going to record them. I still got to record Elaine's wonderful, you know, tales of natural horror. So that's got to be recorded. So I do have a list of these things recording, and I'm coming up to some free time soon. So I will get them all recorded, and it's something that I want to do more of. Actually, I want to do some more of this, helping and pushing new writers and doing audio recordings for them so that they can get their work out there and seen and heard in a number of places. And I do think the two that we featured so far, Elaine and Dani, are well deserving of publishing contracts on the work that they do. Yeah, and it's really, really good stuff. So I will be recording them soon enough.
Brilliant. That wasn't me trying to push you into hurry up.
Oh, I know. Yeah, because you know the work I've had to do. I keep saying, I'm in the third year of that degree, and even though it doesn't look like a lot when you look at it as your little green dots on a timetable, you know, each deadline is charging at you so quickly to get things done. You know, I mean, like I say, I've submitted my portfolio, my dissertation portfolio. You know, 37,000 words just to basically go over the top. But you know, effectively, I think that's what it ends at across the two things. But the whole thing is that, you know, you end up realizing how little time you got, which is why we had a big gap in these sort of things. You're starting to use every last little bit of time. So I am coming round again now I've got 3 more assignments. One of those is just revision, right? And then that's me done. And so by the end of May, and if you're watching this in June, you're a bit late to the party. It'll already be there. If you're watching this before the end of May, they will be there by the end of May.
Brilliant. And hopefully we'll get to see some more of Dani's work as well, and some more of Elaine's work, because these are an awful lot of fun.
Both of which, again, it's almost like I thought about the foreshadowing on this one, isn't it? Both of which will be appearing in the Blackpool Horror Society anthology.
This is almost as though this is professionally scripted and planned people involved. You
think it was. Genuinely, it isn't. But yeah, obviously, you know, us two being writing geniuses, and I will keep saying that we are writing geniuses. It's taken me fucking 50 years to realize it, but yeah, you know, yes, I've made a decision about what we're going to be doing next, and funnily enough, it ties in. So I've been foreshadowing it all the way through. So just at the end of this, when Dani's short story goes up, listen to it. When Elaine's short story goes up, listen to it. You will not be disappointed by them, and more of their work will be coming, and I am going to make sure it does. Right? It's one of my missions in life, is to get more of their work out there. So that leads us to the question, Ash. The question.
The question is, Colin, what are we enjoying next week?
We are going to enjoy, and I'm going to do a bit of, if you would allow me to do a bit of a preamble on this, because we're going to be enjoying a style of film that I know you really like. I'm a big fan of them as well, and that's the anthology horror film. And the reason I know you're a big fan is because when you published your first horror book that did not involve sordid frightfulness and filth, which was Raven and Skull, and I read that book, and I said to you afterwards, this was like reading one of those old anthology horror films, and a big smile went across your face because I'd spotted what you had done, and you had written it from that point of view, which is a lovely thing to see. So it's really clever writing, and it did inspire my Blood Ink actually, in just not just releasing a collection of short stories, but trying to write something that had an anthology feel to it, that they were different types of stories that were going on, but you had to have these linking factors, which is why Blood Ink, not a lot of people know this, and with our particular subscriber list, not a lot of people are going to know it now, but the Blood Ink wasn't just had a certain influence from Raven and Skull, but Raven and Skull features in Blood Ink. Blood Ink and Miss Nikita exists within the Raven and Skull universe, as do a lot of your books as well. Don't they?
You've got a new cover for Blood Ink, haven't you?
I have a new cover for it, but only because we went to a horror convention. We were selling at a horror convention, and I designed all Ash's covers up, and then I've got my Blood Ink cover, which I thought was kind of more Reader's Digest, old 1970s kind of cover. And as soon as everyone walked to the table, their eyes just went straight to your covers, and I'm thinking, I need a picture on the cover. So I've done a picture for the cover. So yeah, it's got a new cover on it. But it exists in the Raven and Skull universe, as a lot of your stuff does. And I love shared universes. And I like the idea that writers are all writing within the same universe. And so you've got these little pockets going on, and you're just these tiny little intertextual ties.
Yeah, one of the things that I enjoyed about, I think it was Under the Dome by Stephen King. In that, one of the characters who appears in there is somebody who's been in a Jack Reacher novel.
Yeah.
And it's just
great, isn't it? It's just
great. I like that overlap,
Inside Number 9 do it all the time. I was talking about it today. There's an episode of Inside Number 9 with these two comedians. So they're going through their old stuff and their old act, these two aging comedians. And there's a little moment in that when he says, you can't just put a stocking on your head anymore and put two ping pong balls in for eyes. You can't get away with that. Which is a direct reference to when they did Psychoville.
With Tina Turner impression, yes.
With Tina Turner impression. And then there was, and it bounces through their work. And it's just like, it's a throwaway line that if you know what they're talking about, it's hilarious. It's like Dungeons and Dragons movie when I went to see that. It's an all right action movie. Unless you know Dungeons and Dragons, then that puts an extra 2 points on it. So you enjoy it. You can enjoy it without knowing, but knowing it has those tiny little references that make you go, oh, these guys have actually played. Because they're not references to Dungeons and Dragons. They're references to role-playing and how you play games interwoven into it. And I love all that kind of stuff. I actually think Dani... just going back to Dani for a second, I would compare Dani to Sia Smith and Thingy from Inside Number 9. I think she has that same ability to crunch a huge amount into a smaller time frame. So because every single one of those Inside Number 9s is 30 minutes long, and I've seen them retell The Wicker Man in 30 minutes and not feel like it's got stuff missing.
I agree with probably the first 4 or 5 seasons of Inside Number 9, but the ones that I've been seeing recently, they seem to have they're not working for me.
Oh, what a shame!
Yeah,
I absolutely adore them.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying it's anything wrong with them. I'm just saying they're not working for me, and it's probably something that I'm expecting from them. They've done some brilliant one. I mean, that one where it was all silent is just one of my favourite pieces of TV ever. A Quiet Night In, I think it was called. Probably the second episode that they did.
Fantastic stuff. Fantastic stuff. I mean, they've done it where the entire script has been rhyming couplets. And ingenious, just genius. And it doesn't work for everybody because it's very pretentious when you do something like that. But they've obviously sat down and go, let's write an episode with rhyming couplets, and then interwove this entire story into rhyming couplets, which I think is just writing genius. I also think it's genius that I think the next season that's coming out is season 7, and when they've done season 9, they're ending it, which is just perfect. So 9 seasons of Inside Number 9. So yeah, very good. Anyway, so what are we watching? I went a complete tangent there. I do apologise. So we like these things. Ash loves these things. We both had them as influences in our work. So the first one we are going to watch, he said, pulling it back up again because I can't remember it. Dr. Terror's House of Horrors, 1965, starring Peter Cushing.
Is he related to Humphrey Cushing?
No, he's not even related to Soft Cushing either.
Dr. Terror's House of Horrors.
Dr. Terror's House of Horrors. It is available. You can find it around the place. I know it's on I think Amazon Prime have it. If they haven't got it, what to call it, Screen TV, then it's not called Screen TV. Anyway, one of the horror channels has got it. You can find this around the place. So we're going to be discussing that. And what we're going to then do is we're going to go through a period of a number of weeks where we're going to be watching a different one of these horror anthologies each week. So if memory serves me well, he said, I'm going to just look at the list. I'm not going to reveal the whole list. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We've got 8 of these coming in all together, which I think averages out at 3 stories per film. Might be 4, actually.
I think there's 5 in Dr. Terror's House. You've got
5.
You've got Christopher Lee. Yep. You've got Roy Castle. You've got Donald Sutherland. You've got a Scottish bloke with a name that I can't remember, and you've got the DJ who, the one who used to say "All right, pop pickers."
Oh yes,
yes,
right,
Alan
Bennett. No, you know this. All right.
Yeah. Anyway, so you've got 5 in that first one. Yes.
Right. Okay. It probably does average out at, I think. Anyway, I'm not going to tell what the other ones are. Even if it averages out at 3, no, we'll have to average out at probably 4 actually. So if it averages out at 4, we've got 8 films to watch. There's going to be 32 different stories that we're going to be consuming over the next 8 weeks.
Brilliant.
Ish. I'll keep a running total, so we'll know exactly how many stories we are going to consume. And we haven't, and there are missing ones from this list as well. There are missing ones from this list, like The Monster Club is missing from this list. Yeah, Torture Garden is missing from this list. This is another list that we will be doing later on in the year. We will go back to doing some more of these anthologies. But for this next 8-week period, 2 months, we are going to be watching a particular list of anthology films.
I can't wait.
As always, Ash.
Yeah. Brilliant, that. Thank you. And thank you to Dani as well. Dani, that was yes. Yes.
Thumbs up on it. It was so entertaining. So enjoyable. I actually read it and then I got Word to read it to me. for my second consumption of it, which was great. Right, anyway.
Thank you
I'll
so
see
much.
You later, Ash.
See you later, mate. Take care.
Bye-bye.